Hi, my name is Sianai Kotay, and welcome to my final project. Philip Pullman once said, "After nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the things we need most in the world." We can see the significance of this statement in the incredibly vast and various forms that stories have taken over the centuries. From ancient hieroglyphics to modern-day motion pictures, people have always felt the need to tell stories. This desire to tell stories is obviously something that is ingrained into humankind. Over the decades, writers and literary enthusiasts alike have struggled to come to a common understanding of the origin of this need to tell stories. It is my opinion that stories are needed because of the multiple services they provide to society. One of these services is creating awareness of the plight of subordinate communities. In Harriet Jacobs' famous novel, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, the narrator gives a chilling, detailed account of her experiences as a slave in an effort to alert Americans to the cruel evils of slavery. And in The Lesson by Toni Cade Bambara, the author attempts to give readers a look at the world of the less fortunate by telling the story of Sylvia, an inner-city girl living in poverty. The overall purpose of both authors' stories was to create awareness of the plight of subordinate communities. Northerners know nothing at all about slavery. They think that it is perpetual bondage. They have no conception of the depth of the degradation involved in the word slavery. This quote is taken from the opening page of Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. It clearly articulates the author's purpose of writing the story. Jacobs felt that people living in the northern region of the United States did not have a true understanding of the evils of slavery, and because of that, they were reluctant to support the cause of abolition. Northerners knew that slaves were deprived of freedom, but they were ignorant to savage beatings, traumatic rapes, and familial destruction that they were forced to endure. Through giving her own testimony and recounting her personal traumatic experiences, Jacobs was able to create awareness of the plight of slaves. This new awareness generated both sympathy and disgust in the hearts of many Northerners, and along with efforts from other writers and activists, ultimately led to abolition of slavery in the United States, a change that was much needed. In The Lesson, a short story by Toni Cade Bambara, our narrative speaks from the perspective of a little girl by the name of Sylvia. Sylvia is young, sassy, and lives in inner-city poverty, but she is also very intelligent. In the story, Sylvia goes on a trip with her class to a toy store whose prices are extremely high. She notices a stark contrast between her living conditions and the conditions of the upper class, as she states. $35 will pay for the rent and the piano bill too. Who are these people that spend that much for performing clowns and $1,000 for toy sailboats? This quotation marks the very moment that Sylvia came to the realization that she and her family were poor and living in a state of economic disparity. This revelation made her sick and angry to the point that she steps on her friend Sugar's foot as she attempts to articulate the true lesson of the story. I think that it is not so much of a democracy, if you ask me. Equal chance to pursue happiness means an equal crack at the dough, don't it? This quote summarizes the idea that Bambara is trying to give readers, as she speaks from Sylvia's perspective in an effort to create awareness of the plight of the poor. Over the millenniums, humans have created stories of all kinds. Folk tales, plays, novels, cartoons, and movies are only a few. And because of their significance in human life and culture, one must wonder, what is the true value of a story? Why are they so important? Philip Pullman once said, "After nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the things we need most in the world." This is an idea that I believe is true. Stories are needed because they serve many purposes, from entertaining to teaching to explaining the unknown.